Oh, should be correct. Yeah, we're in. We're in. You should also hear the music, possibly. I will lower it down and start again. And let's go into the session. Any hints what you can expect from 1.4? More control. More control of your car you can expect from 1.4. All right, all good, all good. We're in. Finally, just 50 minutes of messing around and doing nothing at all. I'm already tired. I've been driving all day, and now finally we can drive again. All right, so great. Wet preset. So this is our wet preset here. And from what I remember, it's pretty awful. So, but let's go and have a go. Let's drive it. Lots of raining. All right. Sound is pretty low. Okay. All right. No, listen how the traction control keeps on. I mean, it's terrible. Terrible. Nice weather for ducks, as they say. Ooh, look at that. Look how the car is practically undrivable. And I've released those presets. I mean, what on earth was I was I thinking? I'm pretty sure that this is an error. So as you can see, the car is completely undrivable. Thanks, Douglas Mancini, for joining and following and all that good stuff. Oof. I mean, the moment I turn, look how much oversteer I have. It's just impossible to keep the car on track. And this is not even storm. We are at heavy rain, but not storm. No, the car doesn't have damage. It's simply that the original wet preset sucks. Completely sucks. I'm just it's that bad, and I have to fix it because for whatever reason, I've completely mistaken putting the correct wet preset on the Huracan Evo. So it is a very good occasion to work on it, fix it, and make it proper for you guys when you are going to get the new update. Yeah, because I should have light up my lights. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I will show you how to do a proper wet setup. All right, so let's go in. And let's try to fix the setup here. All right, so let's go on the setup. So what is happening now? Obviously, as you know, the first thing we do is start with the pressures, but right now the car is completely undrivable, so it doesn't even make sense to start with the pressures. So what you need, the first thing that you need with a wet setup is traction and stability. You need tons of traction and you need tons of stability because you don't want to lose, the rear end. Even if you have some understeer, it's no big issue. You can fix it maybe later, but the first thing you need to do is having, uh, proper stability of the car. You don't want the rear end to go around. And what we can do to uh, to have the car more stable is the ride heights. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is you can see here we have the rear ride height quite high, which might be fine when the car when the asphalt is dry. But right now we cannot drive the car, so I will just slam it down at the same ride height as the front. Now, I know we usually just do one clicks or two clicks at a time, but at this situation right now, we have a car that is simply completely undrivable. Completely undrivable, all right? So we need all the stability. So I don't care if the car will go straight, if I'm going to have too much understeer right now. If you have understeer, this is good. I want the stability. Then slowly we will start, we are going to get stability, and then slowly we will start to eliminate maybe the understeer. So as high as possible rear wing, same ride height back and forth. Again, this is to make the car work, okay, to make the car work while we have these kind of conditions, to have stability. We don't care about performance right now. We just want the car to stay on track. This is our main problem. The car doesn't stay on track. So let's start with that. Maximum rear wing, equal front and rear ride height, and see if the car stays on track. Okay. All right. So as you can see, the car is a little bit stable. It's much better than before. You see, I can go into the turns and I don't have to do weird stuff. The conditions are terrible, but at least we stay on track. There is some, oversteer. You have to stay careful, but car sound is very low. Car sound is very low. We can fix that. Let's go here, audio, and move this again. I don't know about that, mate, about the imperial values. Possibly better now. Let me know if it's too low or too high. If it is too high, let me know. All right. Okay. So we have a car that stays on the road, behaves, goes completely straight while braking, as you saw here, but at least it doesn't go into full oversteer. So as I said, we knew we were gonna have understeer problems. That's not a big issue for now. What we want is to have a car that stays on track so that we can start working with the car. Vision Slayer, I will tell you just in a minute why the tires do not touch the road at 28 psi. Yep, as MJ Puck said, wet tires, optimum pressure is higher than slick tires. You want the wet tires to be at around 29-30 psi, or even higher, depends. But usually about 30 is the best value. It's much higher than 27, 28 than the slick tires. A different tire has different construction. It needs much more pressure to stay on the road. Yep. So we can see already that we stay on the road, but the tires do not get hotter, and the pressure is a bit low. So one thing we could do right now is that since we are starting, being able to drive at least, because before we weren't even able to drive, we could go into the pits, and before even starting, to see if we can improve our understeer here, we could play with the tires, the pressures, adjust them, and see if we can possibly, make them go higher and get some grip. Turn on the light rain. Sure. Light rain on. We even need a faster wiper here. Here. Ooh, again straight. So straight here. It's so much water, guys. You can feel the car and all the problems that it has to deal with the situation. So, first thing first, rise up. The pressures were at around 28, so we need at least 2 psi higher. So let's go to 28. Let's go to 29 here, and 29 here, and 29 here again, right? And 29 here again. Let's go 29 and see what will happen. Okay, so let's go in. Let's do a couple of laps with higher pressures and see what will happen with our car. I mean, the tires are not even hot yet, and you can already see how the car is more stable and more precise. And you see it. It's much more precise. You don't have this movement that you had before with the tires being so flexible because of the low pressure. When you have low pressure, the sidewalls of the tires are flexible, obviously simulated, and that moves your car around, and you might have a nice feeling of on the steering wheel, but the car doesn't really goes exactly where you want it. Alright guys, so as you can see, my tire pressures are about 30 psi at the rear and a little bit lower at the front, so I could gain a little bit at the front. I cannot watch the chat and answer to everything. Ah, yes, NC. Sorry about that, mate. But actually, we have a car here that, starts to react almost properly. Had the car going sideways, but still I managed to keep it, so not that bad. Thank you, Ivan, for following. I really enjoy doing those live streams when the sound works. Lorenzo, we are in full heavy rain, so yeah, it's terrible. Now, you guys might see me not following the exact lines. You might be wondering why, but I will tell you later, all right? Right now, we're not trying to do the perfect rain setup. We're trying to do a driveable setup because, as I said, for whatever reason, the Huracan Evo rain setup preset, the one that is, that you can find inside the game, practically sucks. There's no other way around it. It is undrivable, completely undrivable, and so we have to fix that for the new update, and so that you guys get finally some drivable rain presets for the Huracan Evo. So the first thing we did was, slamming the rear end of the car at the same height as the front, so that we gained stability. As you can see, we have plenty of understeer, but for now it's okay. We are working a little bit on the tire pressures to get them back into the correct tire pressure, which, as I said, is around 30, and we're pretty close right now. And after that, we're going to make the setup a little bit better. Of course, I won't leave it as it is, which is very understeery. And then, you know, we can see what else I can show you. There is plenty of things to show and talk about rain. So we will arrive to even more interesting stuff. After this, I will save the setup. I can also send it to you guys in the comments. But most importantly, I will get the setup and put it into the game as a wet preset, and you will find it as a wet preset on the actual update when the update lands on Steam. All right, so let's go back to the pits. Raise a tiny little bit the front pressures to go up to 30. The rear seem practically spot on, and then do some extra stuff. So, indicator and moving into the pits. Okay, so garage setup. As we said, we are going to go up by 4, 0.4. 0.4 here and 0.4 here, so that we get our hot PSI of the wet tires at around 30 PSI. So while we're doing this, let me save this as wet 1 and move on. Okay, so, right, so what we can do. Now, one of the things that we have done already here, and here we have a little of a problem I can see, is that it is a good practice to use quite a lot of toe, front and rear. Obviously negative at the front, but you can even use it positive, whatever you prefer, depending also how you feel the steering wheel. And quite a bit also toe positive at the rear. Why? Because by using lots of toe, you are scrubbing a little bit the tires also in the straight line, and this generates heat. Generating heat on the wet is always a good thing. You might have seen that I've used this technique with my Aston Martin at Brands Hatch, that we had a very dry line, and we had to drive slicks on a dry line, but it was wet practically, it was damp. So the slicks were very low in temperature, and I was trying every little bit to heat them up. So I used as much toe on both front and rear to scrub the tires and get a tiny bit of heat. All right. So okay, we did that. Fine. What else can we do? Well, the first thing I would like to do, but I can do this manually, and I would like to change the brake bias. Usually, in the rain, you want more rear brake bias than what you're using during a dry setup, dry conditions. Why is that? Because the front tires tend to lock a lot, or not being able to brake as much, and you need to uh, make them lighter, having them using as less grip as possible longitudinally, so that you can also start turning. I don't know if you guys remember. Let's see if I have it here. But I don't know if you remember when I explained to you actually how the tires generate grip. Okay. So how the tires generate grip? If you remember. Okay. So yeah, here it is. Okay. So as we said, slick tires. If you remember, guys. This was it practically. Okay, so this is the graph of a tire and how it generates grip. I believe you remember this. Now the thing is that this might be the lateral uh, grip of the tire. The problem is that if you are asking from the tire the maximum lateral grip, okay, exactly here, you cannot ask from the tire the same thing longitudinally. The tire can generate grip in one direction or another. That's not exactly the situation. It can generate both, but usually you cannot ask the maximum longitudinal grip and at the same time ask some lateral grip. You have to give in something to take something from the other side. Okay. So what we're doing during rain is asking from the front tires to brake a little bit less so that they can generate some extra lateral grip so that we can, turn in the car properly and make it turn. So, yes, exactly, Ervol, the degrees of the tires while sliding. So let's go back and drive some, but this time we are going to move the brake bias to the rear. So we were at 57, sorry. We're going to try and go down to 56 and see what happens. Subat fan, I believe I've shown friction cycles, but I don't remember anymore, and I couldn't find the graph, so I don't remember. I'm old. Right, so let's see. As I said, we moved behind the brake bias to 56. Let's see if that improves our turn in. So, braking and turning in, not so much, but something happened. Well, obviously, we will try to move it backwards some more. Yes, absolutely, Subat fan. 56 moves to the back. It's 56% at the front. We were at 57, so at 56 moves braking to rearwards. Okay, so I can still see some understeer while braking. Try again. It goes a little bit better here. But again, much understeer here. Let's try again. Right, brake, brake. A little bit better. You can see here that it does follow a little bit the turn. So let's go back to 55. Back to 55 and see what happens. At some point, it's going to be so much backwards that I'm going to have issues controlling the rear end of the car. But until this doesn't happen, I will keep going backwards. So let's see. Oh, understeer. More understeer. And that was a higher speed, so that might give us an indication. We'll see now. So high speed, braking. Oh, understeer again. TC is not the focus. Yes, exactly. As NC said, we are trying to do one thing at a time. You have to focus on just one thing at a time. If you try to change everything altogether, then you will not understand what's going on. Again, here you see high to medium speed turn in, and I'm still getting understeer. Now we are going into some slow corners. Let's see what happens. again understeer. So I can go even backwards, even more backwards. All right, so let's go to 54 and see what happens. Again, one step at a time, you see? We went to 56, not much change. 55, 54. Whoops, now you see that, finally the car starts to react in a different way. Turn scene. We have to, obviously this is a slow turn, so we don't have issues to control the car. We have to see if we can control it into a faster turn and more difficult turn. But for now, for sure, it seems that at 54, we are having some better turn in. Now this is an interesting turn here. I keep getting some lockups, so I will again keep focusing on the brakes, but this time I see that I have a ABS level of 8 of 11, so maybe I can change this to 9 and see if it improves into these terrible, terrible conditions. You saw here that the car started moving a little bit sideways. But then again, when I let go the brake, I have issues. The front end doesn't follow as much, so I have issues to control the car inside the turn. I have too much understeer right now. But you see, at slower turns, it's better. The car turns around, aided by the fact that the rear wheels are braking much more. Here even better, you saw? Much better turn in. Traction control works over time. It starts even having a tiny bit of oversteer here. Did you notice that I had to work a little bit with the steering wheel? Nice. So ABS 9 and much rearwards. Brake bias starts giving us some interesting results. Alright, braking here. Ooh, way too late. But still, you see, I've managed to keep the car. That wasn't bad at all for such a late braking. Alright, so the car is not that bad. We can work a little bit with it and see if we can, eliminate some of the understeer. There is still tons of understeer, which is not, because of the braking, but it's the natural tendency of the car right now, because obviously we have way too much rear wing and way too much rear downforce. So let's see if we can fix that. Okay. Right. So we said 54 brake balance and ABS 9. So let's go in. Return to the garage. ND4 speed or whatever. ND4 something. Thank you for following. Okay. So okay. We said we want 54 brake balance. 54. Wow. And on the electronics, we want the ABS to go up to 9. We might also try 10 later, but we'll see. So uh, I will use less traction control, but until then, I want to do, as I said, one thing at a time. We first focused on trying to make the car enter. We tried less brake bias, which helps a lot, and at some points we had some rotation of the car, so we are now close at the limit. If I bring the brake bias even more rearwards, we're gonna have stability issues, so I don't want that. But when I release the brakes, then I'm still having lots of understeer, so that means it's time to work a little bit on the aero. Now, uh, let's try this. Let's go up at the rear right height, because we know that going up at the rear moves the aerial balance to the front. So it gives more grip to the front and a little bit less grip to the rear, maybe. So let's move 2 clicks at the rear right height and see what happens, okay? No, 30 PCI is the so sorry guys. Our vol says 30 PCI is a recommended value because this compound works with it, or is it just recommended to have higher pressure for any condition? No, it's a recommended value for those tires. Always, try to understand and follow the recommended value for each tire. Okay, so all right. Let's also lower a bit the brake ducts, because at the rear they are completely, cold. And here also we can do something. And try again. Try again. Again, as I said, one click at a time, so that you can understand and focus on what is happening, because otherwise, if you start moving way too many things together, it really is difficult, and you don't understand. Bit of understeer. But you can see the car rotating. Just 2 clicks, guys. 2 clicks. You can see already the car rotating now. Might even rotate way too much. Right indicator on. Sorry about that. No, you shouldn't. Whoops! Oversteer. Ooh, we've lost it. Ha! Interesting. So as you can see, 2 clicks, and the car already, starts to rotate properly. I wasn't paying attention, so it caught me out of guard, and here we have our first spin. But let's put the tires up to temperature and see what happens. You see also how the brakes are hitting the tires up. We already have much higher pressures than before, so probably we're gonna need less pressure now. Whoops. Keep watching the chat. I cannot drive. Okay, braking here. Ooh. Look at that turn in. Ooh. Almost too much. So just 2 clicks, guys. You see how sensitive the cars are to ride hit. It's amazing. And I mean, every time it's so impressive. Yeah. GT3 are pitch sensitive. You guessed it, Frederick. I mean, look at that. The car now actually turns. Probably even too much. That's why I'm doing the, the live streams. I'm gonna keep repeating it until everybody understands it. All right, so now we actually have a car that stays on track, that actually turns into the turns. All right. Terrible use of words. Um, it's, I would say, almost neutral, almost. Obviously slow, but you can see the conditions. It's not like we can, you know, make amazing lap times. And obviously, the car is gonna manifest understeer or oversteer if you push it just a tiny bit over what the tires can handle. And you can see that especially at high-speed turns, because the tires cannot actually drain all the water from the road, because that is how the simulation works. So at higher speeds they cannot drain all the water, so if you ask too much they start a tiny bit of aquaplaning, and you can see the car moving to the side or having a little bit of understeer, a little bit of oversteer. So this is normal in such conditions, but actually the car, if you're careful, does what you want. So what's the problem now? As you can see, the problem is that I'm full acceleration and the traction control cuts everything. So what we can do, we can use a little bit of less traction control. It's not going to be easy to find out how much. Obviously, the less traction control we use, the more the car will be very difficult under acceleration. But now it's the time to start using less traction control. And by using less traction control, we're gonna see how much the car will go into oversteer, and possibly see if, we can use less traction control but change something to the setup to make the car handle the oversteer, Okay, so where are we? At 8. Let's go to 7. Traction control 7. Ooh-hoo. Okay. You can hear the traction control cutting, but it accelerates. It's not stopped. At 8, you could hear the traction control, cutting, and the car practically wouldn't accelerate. Now at 7, you see, it gains speed. Now obviously, if you keep doing it, you can see that it starts rotating a little bit too much. Oh, look at that car, not bad. You see, it accelerates. The car turns, the car brakes, the car accelerates. Welcome, spoon-fed butter. Ooh, don't go over here. That's quite interesting right now. So much better in acceleration. Let's try to do a normal lap again, but at least one full lap without doing errors. But you can see already how much it gains. Ooh, a tiny bit of oversteer, obviously. Already a fastest lap. Oops, sorry about the engine. And already the delta is going down. Well, the car is not easy now. It's not so easy to control. We have issues. but it is much faster than before, and it is of course controllable, while the first setup we tried was completely undrivable. Hello Marco Manno, welcome. Thank you so much guys for subscribing to the channel. So many people coming along. Ooh, I've started braking way too late. But I saved it, so good. Yeah, it's so much faster now. I'm gaining almost 2 seconds. Keeps on accelerating. You have to be careful. Yeah, much better. Ooh, over 2 seconds. Look how much acceleration we get. Okay, it's evident to everybody that the car is so much faster than before. Let's move down to 6 on traction control. And we do it. Whoa, oversteer. Oh, whoa! 6 is no go. We cannot do it in 6. Traction control 6 in those conditions is not good.